Hey Christina, alright, so here is your past life spread. So what we're going to do is look at where we are, what you did with the majority of your time, an important day with the relationships and feelings involved, another important day, the death, and the lesson learned, and we'll get hints of time throughout. All right, so all I'm going to do is relay to you the images and impressions I'm getting, and your job is going to be to make connections where you can from what we're looking at here based on or connected to your current life, and I'll try to help however I can too. All right, so let's start. Let's make sure you can see that. There we go. All right, so where we're going here, this is the Asia card. So of course there's lots of places in Asia, but what I'm getting is, there we go, the glare's gone. What I'm getting when I put this down was a very, very cold place. And we're going to be looking at very cold existence. And it doesn't feel like we're looking at, I guess what people might consider like a typically Asian kind of country as far as like China goes. But it feels more like we're heading like what would feel like what's the S place, this not Serbia, what's that called, where it's not Russia but it is Russia and it's part of Russia but it's like northern Russia, and it's like a vast land where it's like completely cold. I'm missing the word right now, but it feels like we're looking at what would be Russia, but not like a city and not even close to a city. It feels like it's total outskirts where it's like people don't even, maybe it's not even technically Russia, but it's like right on the border or the northern border of Russia. It's I feel like it's an S word and there's like a IA in it with gosh, oh well, go Google. I'm not really great with geography, so go Google and Google and see what's kind of like bordering, feels like bordering Russia, more northern, like very bleak and vast and cold, and it's almost like there is no city or no structures. It feels like it's very like natural landscape. And they're showing me just like blankets of white, like lots of snow. Gosh, I wish I knew the name. Sorry about that. Okay, so we're looking at that area, and we are looking at what feels like a female life, but it also feels like a female life that is not at all feminine. Like there's no place for like feminine-ish energy here. It's very like tough and enduring and survival, and there's even like what's it called, like a strong intelligence of common sense as well, like being strategic and planning ahead. So let's just connect as far as that goes. For example, certain connections you could be making is, are you someone that likes to plan ahead? Are you someone that likes to make lists, have a plan B, C in place? Someone that maybe is good at foreseeing what might go wrong, so you have things handy or ready just in case. If you're a just in case kind of person, that would be a connection, a direct connection. Now, we can also make opposite connections when it comes to this kind of thing. So direct connection would mean that you would exhibit traits or behaviors directly from what we're going over here. The opposite kind of connection would be that because you were distributing those traits here so much, your soul could have incarnated into this current life to experience the opposite, which would mean that you could be someone that forgets things, or that doesn't plan ahead, or maybe just kind of goes with the flow of things and not really caring so much about what could go wrong, like that kind of thing. A very easy peasy, go with the flow kind of mindset, because in this life here, you could not have that life set. So again, either you're coming back into this life where this is part of who you are, where you plan ahead, you see what could possibly happen, that kind of thing, or the opposite, where it's just easy peasy, I don't care, I'm just gonna chill. And that's normal. And I think the last reading I had where it was just possibly where that person had a take a chill, take a breather kind of lifestyle, or the kind of life in this life, because the last life was so hard. So we're seeing that happen. And a lot of times that would come up for the reason of like kind of just letting you know that not to be hard on yourself, not to feel guilty, not to feel bad if you are, let's say, living a very lax lifestyle and maybe people around you aren't, and they might look down on you or they might give you crap about it. But we don't realize that we come in and these people that we may even consider, you know, society might consider lazy, are really just having a breather. They're just taking a breather because their last life was so hard, you know? So that's why it's so important not to judge people, especially yourself, for these types of things, because you don't know where that kind of behavior is coming from, or why it's being triggered, or, you know, why you came in that way. So it's kind of like, if that's how you feel you are, it's like, be gentle with yourself, don't judge yourself, don't feel bad about things, and don't listen to other people if they judge you, because that's important too. So also another connection you could be making is this cold aspect, survival aspect. You could be someone that absolutely hates the cold, or you can find that you're someone that is always cold, your hands and feet always cold kind of thing. If there's always like, you always feel a chill, or you're very aware of the temperature, that kind of thing, that could stem from here as well. It can be, again, direct or opposite. One, you could either embrace the cold and you live well with it, or you could be someone who despises the cold and just wants to like live in Fiji, you know, where it's just always warm and beachy and things like that. So keep in mind when you make connections how you can be making those connections. It could be direct or opposite. Also being connected to this place in general. In the Asian continent, are you ever drawn or triggered when you see photos of the Asian continent? More would be north. It would be probably Russia, or that. Again, please look up that place, because I feel like I've actually like known this word and I can't think of it now. But see if photos or hearing about it triggers you in some way. You could be very drawn to that geographic region, even in a way where it might even be distasteful. You can be triggered in that way too. So keep that in mind. Let's go to what you do with the majority of your time. So here we have a card, and it's the Hunt and Provider card, which would make a lot of sense, I think, with this. Again, we are looking at female life, but with masculine tendencies, which also can be a connection to your current life. If you find that you've been a tomboy in your life, or you have more masculine traits, or what we consider to be masculine, which is being someone that's like caretaker. I know that sounds weird because, you know, mothers are caretakers, but more like provider in that sense, like just making sure everyone is well provided for. But also in the way that we think of masculine as like a doer, more like outgoing, I guess, or aggressive, or forward, or, you know, just more like assured of yourself, that kind of thing, like these masculine tendencies or whatever they are. And I say masculine, it's not bad. Like I'm totally a tomboy. Like, it's totally fine. It's not like saying you're manly, okay? But just that these traits where it's like you're more assertive, you're more capable of things, you know what I mean? Less passive, less wishy-washy, that kind of thing. So we're looking at this, which goes with what we were talking about, really. And I feel like what we're looking at is someone who's part of a small community that survives like off of each other, but everyone has their individual tasks. So so what they're showing me is like this is a woman who's out, basically, however she's hunting. It feels like we're looking, honestly, at a bow and arrow type of thing. It feels like we're looking at a more primitive type of thing. And what it is, it's technically kind of confusing, because what I'm feeling here are these people who are rather primitive in how they survive and how they, you know, live or whatever, but that doesn't mean we're looking so far back in time. It means that this location that they're at and the lifestyle they have based on where they are, it's actually like they are living a lifestyle that is more primitive, whereas the rest of the world is more advanced and more modern, but they're just not part of the modern world. So it could be too that you connect in that way, where you might show tendencies in this life to really kind of, what's it called? It could, again, the direct connection would be where you might have a thing for old-fashioned things, like keeping historic things alive, or appreciating historical aspects in modern society. It could be something random like preferring a rustic look in your home versus modern. I know that sounds kind of random, but it's like that kind of thing, like where you appreciate history or historical aspects, or like the art of letter writing. I like to use that when we come across these kind of things because it's like a dying art, and yet people are still able to do it. So you might be someone that really enjoys hobbies where it's like something that is considered a dying art or a dying language, learning a historic language as a dead language. Like those kinds of things might intrigue you. And if they do, that would be a direct connection. But then there's that opposite connection where we're seeing someone who is surviving in this kind of harsh environment using less than modern tools, so to speak. So you might have decided to come back into this life where you're just like fully modern, fully have all the, you just want to, like, it's all contemporary. It's all now. It's all today. It's, that kind of thing where you didn't have those things or even the option of having those things here. So today you might be, I guess, what people would consider or call materialistic even. And that's not a bad thing, but just knowing that if you are materialistic in that way, it could very well stem from here where you had only what you needed to survive. And this living felt very mobile too. So in that mobility, again, you could either be someone who loves to travel around, move around, you're good at moving across cultures, interculturally kind of thing, just good at movement. On the other hand, you could be someone who came into this life to root down and to find a permanence and stability, because here we're looking at, even though the lifestyle was technically stable because it was consistent and constant, there was movement. There was a lot of movement. You couldn't just hang out, put it that way. So for you to come back into this life where you're someone that may technically enjoy luxuries like going to the spa, things that aren't about survival but are about pampering or are about like having nice things, taking care of nice things. If that's you, it would come again from here, from this person here who couldn't really have nice things. Everything they had was to survive. So there is this like big survivalist aspect. And if you find that you actually connect with that survivalist aspect where you feel like life has been about survival, that could be a soul memory coming through as well, where it technically might not even be true in your current life, but you feel that way. It's kind of like the same thing of like how some women fear rape without having been molested or raped before, that kind of thing, but they fear it just because it's in our soul DNA. In one lifetime or another, we have been taken advantage of as a woman. Like it's just happened. It's an experience that our soul has gone through, so it's kind of like a fear that comes through. Or, for example, a fear where someone dies a certain way, let's say it's a terrible way like strangling, and they come back into this life where they cannot wear turtlenecks or necklaces or anything around their neck because of that soul memory that comes through and travels with us. So in that way, the survivalist theme or aspect here might come through into your current life where, yeah, you might be able to understand why it's there, but if you don't understand why it's there, it would come from this being part of your soul memory of having to survive. So let's move to the first important day. Okay, so the first important day here, there is a death in this place. And the relationship here is friends, and it feels very much like we are talking about people in your community, because it feels like we're actually looking at something where it feels like a very, what's it called? Extreme, intense winter. Ridiculously extreme is what it feels like. Extreme temperature. So again, if you have any connections with temperature in this life, if you could feel, maybe you're someone that can feel when the temperature changes literally 1 degree, So if you have anything about heat, cold, temperature, that kind of thing, or if you're someone that gets sick every winter very easily, if your immune system is low, and you get like a cold or flu every winter type of thing, that would be the kind of like memory kind of coming through of what happened in this winter. At the same time, because you survived it, you survived what killed off some people, you could have an excellent immune system in this life. Just based off surviving this kind of existence, you might be super healthy in this life. You might be able to go through and not get sick when everyone around you is getting sick. Like, you're the one that's caretaking for your family because your family has come down with something, but you're the one that doesn't come down with things. You see? So it could be both ways. And so what's happening here is it feels like it's extreme winter, extreme temperature. The feeling here is depression. And depression goes with the death of your friends, but also the way the environment is making you feel. So you might be someone in this current life that feels like you need to find the right environment in order to be productive and proactive. And this would also be a message for you that if you find in your life right now, if you feel like that you're in limbo, or you don't know like what to do next, what step to take, what's going to help you get out of a funk. Let's say you get into some funks, because we're all human and we go up and down and we get into some like depressive funk sometimes. I would definitely recommend, based off this, that you place yourself in a new environment. In any way that means, like, let's say you're a writer and you have writer's block. There you go. Let's say you're a writer with writer's block. What are you going to do in order to get past that? I would say go to a library, go to a new town, find a coffee shop and write. That's basically what I'm saying is get out of your norm, get out of routine for you. That would be very helpful for you to get out of a routine in order to create space for creativity and for flow. Okay? So again, if you feel like you're stuck in any way, even, you don't know what to do about a relationship, you don't know what to do about a job, your thoughts will start to flow and you'll get better ideas if you place yourself away from the norm. Get out of your environment and find an environment that's very conducive to what you need. Because this environment, it was constant, consistent, cold, and all those, the 3 C's, constant, consistent, and cold. But it also, it didn't serve you in some respects. Like, it didn't allow you to see any change. There was no change. There was no different days here. So I feel like it would be important for you to know that it's important for you to change up your environment. It doesn't mean to move all the time. Maybe you like that idea, and that's fine. But it doesn't necessarily mean move. It just means go somewhere where it's new, where it's not routine, and also the fact that you can go somewhere and change up the environment, that is something you didn't have here, is the control over where you were. So it could be very important in your current life that you have that control to move around, do what you want, be very independent. Here we're looking at people who are dependent on each other to survive. Even though they each had their own tasks, they all came together as a community, which is why this was such an important day too, because the death of a few members could potentially mean the death of all the members, because everyone relied on everyone. So it was like a taking on of tasks of other people as well. That's an important day too, because you shouldered even more responsibility. So it could be that you are easily stressed out in this life because you might feel like you have to take on other people's burdens or responsibilities. And I would like for you, in answer to that, if that's how you feel, then your new best friend favorite word is nope, sorry, nope, sorry, that kind of thing. Learn to say no. Make sure you're not taking on too much responsibility outside of yourself. Make sure the responsibilities and burdens you're taking on are mostly for you, if not all for you, about you, to move you forward, that make you happy. Because responsibility can be a fun and happy thing as long as you're getting something out of it. As long as you're not like just pulling a cart full of bullshit for other people. Just make sure that you are taking care of yourself, okay? That's not selfish. When you take care of your needs and yourself first, then it's much easier to take care of other people. It's just how it is. So make sure you are filling up your energy bucket, your self-love bucket, make sure you're taking care of you, okay? So and keep making connections where you can, all right? Let's move to the next important day here. So here we have the Wowzer card. It's one of my favorite cards. It's when like something fantastic is witnessed or figured out or thought of or something like that. And the relationship card here is child. So there's a child right there. Woo. And the feeling here is neutral. So it's really interesting. What's coming through is something about a new child in the tribe, for lack of better terms. It's like a child in the tribe. I'm trying to see if it is yours. I'm just trying to see, because there's something about newness coming through. There's something about it being spring, right? So we're looking at, basically this was the winter, and now we're looking at spring. And it feels like, well, okay. So what's coming through is that there's something about not just one new child, but potentially more. But there's something about you taking on the responsibility of one. Let's say there were, okay, so what's happening basically is, so these women that, it feels like women died is what it feels like. It feels like women died. At least 2 of your good friends, at least 2 women died. And remember, this is a very small community. And it feels like these women, it's almost like they died either while giving birth in the winter, or like while still very pregnant. And it's almost like there's this weird thing. I'd love for you to look this up. If there is something like this, then let me know if you find it. But it feels like these women almost like, it's almost like they die, but it's like this slow, it's like a slow death. It's not like painful. It's almost like okay. It's like, what they're showing me is like hardcore winter. There's a couple of women, out of, a few die, but there's a couple of women who are pregnant. And it's almost like they go into a type of meditative state. It's almost like cryo, how you've learned like cryo freezing can preserve life in a weird way, but they don't do that here. This is more primitive, but it's almost like they go into a meditative state that it's where they're almost like unconscious until they can give birth. And then it's like they die for like after the birth. It's almost like they stayed bare minimum alive in order for the like fruition of the birth to happen. This is very weird. So never got this before, so please look this up and let me know if you do find something about this kind of technique of keeping like pregnant women possibly alive in this very cold environment until the birth is done, and then the women do die. But we're moving here to this important day. After that, it's like the birth, they give birth, and it's like, so this child is raised, and we're looking at springtime kind of thing, and you take on the responsibility of one of the children. And it does feel now like there are like 2 children. You take on one, and the feeling is neutral, but it's not a neutral feeling like you don't care one way or the other about the child. It's more like your mindset is so set in survival mode that it's hard for you to take joy in raising the child. So it's not like how we raise children today, where it's just like, oh, my beautiful baby, bouncy baby photos on Facebook, da da da. There's none of that. It's like very hardcore survival mode, and it's almost like the death of these friends of yours drives you almost to be even harder on the child to make sure that they are in survival mode as well, so that this doesn't happen to them, or so that they know how to help when this occurs again, something like that. So it's a very kind of like a bittersweet thing, because you do care for the child, but it's like you are so, there is such a wall up when it comes, because it's because of love. It's because of love that you are hard on the child and you want them to succeed. Could be that in your current life, if you have children and you find that you are hard on your children in some way and you don't know why, like maybe you get angry quickly when they don't do things right, or maybe you get frustrated if that you feel like they aren't able to do something quick enough, or something like that, which is totally normal. It would stem from here. It would stem from this aspect of your experience here, where it was all about survival, and it could come back in your soul memory where it can make you short-tempered in this life when you see someone else close to you not capable or not able or not putting forward the effort to complete a task fully or quickly or efficiently. So it could be that you are easily frustrated when people around you that you care about or that could be colleagues, could be your kids, whatever it is, where you get easily frustrated. I mean, that would just make sense. It's just what's coming through. So just know that it's almost like you might wonder, if you do get frustrated with people for not being efficient, for not, doing tasks where you're quite capable of doing it, let's say, this would be a message coming through for you to try to ease off, try to back away, try to let people make mistakes, try to see the beauty in mistakes is what I would say is coming through, quite frankly. So if we were to take anything from this day, it's to give you a message to try not to judge, just like before. We had this no judgment thing before. Try not to judge other people for not being able to do something or figure something out as capably as you might be able to, where you might be able to see that from A to B, you might be able to see B from a mile away, but it takes people getting to right before B is there to see B. Try not to judge, try not to be too harsh on people, try to remember that we're not in survivalist mode anymore. Even if you might feel that way, we're in a time period now where there's a lot of freedom, there's a lot of help, there's, and we're looking to be more of like a peaceful and less stringent society, hopefully. So if this has to do with your children in general, if you do have children and you do find that this kind of speaks to you in some way, it would be very, very good for you to try to pull back and allow them to make their mistakes. Allow people to make their mistakes. But this also talks to you. This really does speak to you, because if you are making mistakes and you're hard on yourself and you chastise yourself and you're frustrated with yourself, this is a big message for you not to be, for you to learn to forgive yourself. Be kind to yourself. If you feel yourself wanting to like berate yourself for doing a poor job or whatever, switch those words around immediately and say, you tried, I forgive you, you're great, and you're saying this to yourself, I love you, we're gonna work on this. You know what I mean? Just basically, just be gentler with yourself and those around you. Try not to see mistakes as mistakes, or if you see mistakes as mistakes, try to see them as learning tools. Always see mistakes as just a learning curve. And that will help you, because when it comes to judging yourself or judging others or whatever it is, being hard on yourself or hard on others for this kind of thing, you're putting that wall back up, you're creating obstacles, and you want to instead get rid of the obstacles and create space for improvement. And you won't have space for improvement if you're filling that space with judgment and frustration, whether on yourself or others. So please keep that in mind if that speaks to you. And please keep making connections, but also another connection might be you might have chosen not to have children in this life. And if that is a choice you've made, or you find yourself without children at this time, it could be on a soul level you feel like having children would put you back into a survival mode type of thing, and your soul might not want that for this life. So if you don't have children, don't be hard on yourself and don't listen to others who tell you to have children if that's the case, because it could be that you're making this decision subconsciously for a good reason. Okay? This would also, though, indicate that you would also probably make a good, albeit harsher teacher, where it's like a tough love kind of teacher, which still is a really good teacher. There's this feeling of you that you would make a very good teacher to young people, but you probably wouldn't be the lovey-dovey, hugs, warm and fuzzy teacher. You would probably be more of like making sure those kids learned what they're meant to learn, but that they appreciate it, if that makes sense, if that speaks to you in any way. All right. So keep making connections where you can. Here, we're going to move on to the death. This death is the natural death. It's the death we all want. The easy, go to sleep and go away death. And that's what happens. It just feels like you sleep and you die in night. And it does feel like we're looking at someone who is younger, but only by our standards. Based on the life you lived here, the harsh life, you died at a pretty common age for, I feel like, what is your community, even though there's a few like what we would call elders, old people that just stick it out. But I feel like if we were to place an age on it, it would be no more than like 50 kind of thing. Like no more than 50 here. Like it's still showing me a person with like dark hair and there's no wrinkles and nothing like that. It's just that the harshness of your environment and your living, your lifestyle is what basically makes that happen. But it is a peaceful death into sleep. And so any connection you can make from this would be, if anything, if you have trouble sleeping. So if you have trouble sleeping at night, it's a very common thing that would have to do with past lives where you die in your sleep, simply because your soul remembers you died in your sleep, so it's doing this weird, like, kickback of, hey, don't go to sleep, because that's what happened. But if you're not having any issues with sleep, then there's really no other connection to make here. And then here's the lesson. So this is really great. This is actually really great because the life lesson here is self-love, and it's really funny because this lesson pertains more to your current life than this life, because in this life it was about other people. So it's almost like an opposite thing. It's like in this life, your lesson, you totally learned it too, was to play your role in your community. That's how you helped other people, is you played your role, and you had to, or there would be consequences. In this life, it's about filling your own bucket up. It's about giving yourself self-love. It's about making sure that your needs are met, not in a selfish way, but just that your needs are met. Like, you don't need to ask permission from anyone to do anything because you're an independent and grown person. You know what I mean? Like that kind of thing. Like, make sure you are in full realization of your independence, of your capabilities, of what you can do for yourself, by yourself. Make sure you are doing things that treat your soul, that make you happy. We talked earlier about materialism and like going to the spa and things like that. If that's what does it for you, do it. Pamper yourself in this life. Pamper yourself. You've earned it. Like you've really earned it. So don't feel bad about that. Make sure you get rid of guilt. I mean, of course, if you're hurting other people doing that, like, see what's going on there. But as far as like, if it's not hurting anyone, make sure you are definitely just pampering yourself and giving yourself freedom, forgiving yourself, not holding on to grudges or guilt. That's what this is all about. So make sure you're doing you in this life, if that makes sense. So there's your past life. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you're able to make some connections, and thanks for letting me read you.